Hi there, welcome to Stoked to be here. My name's Laura and I'm the back half of Stellar Tandem, a record-breaking attempt to cycle around the world in 2022. This podcast is set up to speak to people from the worlds of endurance and cycling to get lots of tips and tricks. We've had a little bit of a break while I got distracted running across the country, but I've got that out of my system now. So we're now back to cycling, and I have a very exciting guest today, who is Helen Langridge, who's a round the world cyclist and endurance cyclist and all sorts of other things. Hi, Helen.
Hi, Laura. How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, I love how you had to get the running out your system.
Yeah, I think I have now. It's a minor blip, but yeah, it's all about the cycling now, which is good news because we've just got the weather for it too.
Absolutely.
Fabulous. So you kind of seem to start off like me, and it's the same for me in running too. I wasn't particularly sporty when I was at school, when I was younger, and kind of came to it a bit later in the day. But how on earth did it transpire that you cycled around the world from that?
It escalated very quickly, in the grand scheme of things, I suppose. No, I didn't really start cycling until I was actually way into my university years, when I just happened to have a bike. I can remember, I remember just one day seeing all the lots of cyclists in London started it was the start of that transition where people were really pushing for it all, in London for safety, and I just saw a lot more cyclists on the road. I thought, oh, that'd be a really good way of getting around, but I was a poor student and actually quite lazy. So whilst my boyfriend at the time bought me a bike as a graduation present, I didn't really use it very much. Bless him, he did say, I don't think you're going to use this very much, and I didn't. He was right until later, and now we're still friends, and more recently I've been like, hey, look what I do. You were wrong. It took a long time to get there. Bless him. So yeah, even then it was just a mode of transport, and it just gradually progressed as I had an accident. I was hit by a car, and I didn't really want to stop cycling because it really made me realize that I was really enjoying it, and I was seeing myself progress physically and mentally, which was more the key. I was turning up to work really awake and feeling really positive about myself, and when I got hit by the car, I could have either gone one way or the other of I'm never cycling again, or actually I really want to do this as more of a hobby, more than just getting to work and back. So that's probably the catalyst, really. And then it was like weekend rides and a sportive, and how did I don't actually know how I jumped from just doing like a 60-mile sportive to doing a 3-day London to Paris ride. I think I was just, maybe I had
a big jump.
Yeah, maybe just one too many glasses of wine one night, and I was like, that sounds like a great idea. I think it was.
That's how all the best plans start.
I think I just really wanted to cycle abroad, and I was watching the Tour de France and thinking how wonderful it looked, and just it was that. And then I got back from that, and it was that feeling of, oh my goodness, I can't believe my little legs have got me from one city to another capital city completely on my, plus a ferry, obviously. But no, it wasn't. It was even the Channel Tunnel, so there was a transport there. But either way, it was that sense of self-sufficiency that was mind-blowing at the time. Like, I'd never contemplated travel in that way. I'd seen lots of my peers from school go off traveling, like backpacking or just holidays, and thought, oh, I can't afford to do that. That would be wonderful. And then it sort of, cycling made me realize that you can see the world in a very different way, in a very affordable way, assuming you have the bike. Let's not pretend cycling is cheap here. And then it just, as I kind of got all these little milestones, it was just more and more about self-sufficiency and seeing myself develop and hit these goals that was just really rewarding, basically.
Yeah, and that first sense of looking on a map at how far you've come it's immense, isn't it? And I think that's what sucks you in, doesn't it, to the long distance. You think, oh, so how far could I go?
yeah, and then it's a very dangerous road to be going down.
Yeah. And then kind of your first kind of, or your main kind of solo journey was LeJoG, which is London John O'Groats, which me and Steve were lucky enough to squeeze in last year. It's pretty challenging ride, really, and you rode that solo. And I mean, how did you go about kind of finding the confidence to do that? I think a lot of people would go, were you not scared, were you not, how did you get around to doing
It's
it?
a great question. I never really doubted it, and I don't know why. I think I had been I'd had something instilled in me when I was at school that was just, you just got to go for it. And over the course of my university years, I just tried to take every opportunity that came along. And I'm not a religious person at all, so I'm a bit more like, well, this is my belief purely. It was like, well, this is all we have, right? So we've got to make the best use of the time that we're here for. And I decided that this was something that I really wanted to do and was something that would shape my life. And why be held back by something that may never happen, the fear of something happening that may never happen. And it didn't, because I sort of had taken these big jumps between things. It just seemed like the next do you remember thinking it's the next logical step, like that's logic, I don't know. Like the next big challenge I think was, I think I had looked it up and was like, what is a, maybe this wasn't an exact Google search term, but what is the big bike ride in the UK? And it just came up in Google, and I just started looking into it more. And I hadn't ever heard of bike packing or audaxing or anything like that. It was just perhaps more bike touring for me, and it progressed through that avenue. So I didn't know about bike packing bags. I used a pannier and things like that, and I had a very predefined route, and I wasn't camping. I was not that person yet. I was in B&Bs and hostels and all that stuff. So it was a big step up, and I think I've always liked to challenge myself, just take the opportunities. And I thought, well, just take 2 weeks off work, and that's the way I want to be.
No, that's amazing. I think that's such a fantastic outlook to have, is you've just got to go get it sometimes, haven't you? And but again, I think the fact that you did do B&Bs and hosteling, I think that kind of mitigates some of that massive leap, doesn't it? Because it's a lot, and it's a lot to take on. It's a lot to learn as well, kind of learning to live day to day on the bike. What did you find most challenging? Was it being by yourself? Was it like mechanicals or fear of a mechanical? Finding food or water? What was the big challenge on that kind of route?
I think it was more breaking down a very long journey into bite-sized bits, because whilst I was always a bit gung-ho, be like, yeah, I'm gonna go do this, I was fine until maybe I was at the start line and thought, oh, actually this is 2 weeks, like I've got to be riding for. And it was intimidating, but I already knew that I had to just take it day by day. And I think because it was a very predefined GPX route that I was following, it was like, oh, well, that only says I've got 80 miles to do today, or that only says I've got 90 miles to do today. So it was like, that's all I had to think about. I'd done so much planning beforehand that I had mitigated all of those issues. And being on my own was quite exhilarating. I think it was that feeling of freedom of, I've only got to just get to the B&B at the end of the day, and I've got the whole day to do it. So it takes as long as it takes. And I think it was my first taste of people being really kind to you on the road when you're on a bike. I stopped in a lay-by. I don't actually remember where I was. I was just switching over my water bottles, and there was a guy who ran a little cafe in this lay-by, and he gave me some water, and I was like, oh, how much do you want for it? He was like, no, just take it, enjoy yourself, you look like you need it. It was quite a hot day. And I was like, blown away. It was the first time I'd ever had someone be really kind, and coming from like a commuter in London on a bike, that is like completely the opposite end of the scale of the way people react to you when you're on two wheels. And I think that probably helped the motivation to then go further each time in all of my
no, definitely. There's something very special about the way you as a tourer, and if your bike's obviously laden and stuff, the way you're treated, isn't there?
You're not going to steal anything from anyone because you can't carry it, so
exactly.
You're very non-threatening.
You're pretty safe territory, aren't you? And then obviously that then kind of led up to the big one, but your story of kind of how that came about and how you met Mike is it's pretty special. But I think it's
Bit of a fairy tale,
before. So go on then, how did you meet?
Yeah, on Tinder. It really is basically that. Like, I had moved to Glasgow just before I did Land St John O'Groats, and a relationship broke down. So I found myself in a new city completely on my own. The job I'd moved to, I only had 2 or 3 work colleagues, so it wasn't like I had a huge social life that was there ready for me. So I was finding things quite difficult, but I was, trying to get out there, and I was on Tinder and came across this one profile of Mike, and he had in his profile that he really wanted to cycle around the world. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, I'd read all the books, and I'd seen Mark Beaumont's documentary with his first around the world, and I think everything I'd seen and learned from my previous smaller trips had ignited this fascination with, you can travel by bike and make it a very once you got the bike, a very affordable way of doing it. And I think we were talking about the fear with LeJoG. I didn't have that. I didn't have any fear about being on my own with LeJoG, but I did find that it would have been nice to share it with someone. I don't have anyone I can turn to and say, wouldn't it be really, do you remember that point when this happened? I can tell people, but they wouldn't be like, yeah, that was amazing, kind of thing. So I knew that I didn't really ever want to undertake something that grand on my own. And I hadn't really thought that it was ever possible financially, etc., etc. So coming across someone who already had that desire without having to instill that in them was, it was really exciting. And then he was obviously very handsome, and so I swiped the correct way. Is it right? I don't remember which way it is. And we'd already matched, so he'd already seen me. And my first message to him was, when are we leaving? And then it all escalated from there, and we left.
Fantastic. Yeah, so that's quite a whirlwind romance, and quite a whirlwind kind of trip planning too. And I think it's fantastic that to have somebody that's on the same page. Obviously, I'm very lucky to see that if you enjoy the same hobbies and the same aspects of things, I still see there's couples where it's the bloke that goes out golfing or mountain biking or does this, that or the other, and she goes to the shops and drinks coffee with her friends, and you just think, oh, you're missing out. You're missing out.
And I can't tell the wife I've bought a new bike. It's like,
yeah, definitely, it's a shame. It's really lucky, isn't it? And then so it's quite reasonably quick turnaround to get to that point where you're leaving. I mean, were you physically training in that time? Like, what preparations did you do, or was it a bit of a like, let's go and just wing it?
I don't think we quite appreciated how much time saving would take. So we were given a free membership to the British military fitness guys, who were amazing to support us in that way. Just, we went along a few times a week to exercise and do amazing workouts in the outdoors in a park in Glasgow, and I've made some really great friends from that group. But our lifestyle balance didn't really offset the attempt to getting fit. So whilst it kind of helped us not get horrendously unfit, we left really unfit. Like, that was all our fault, no fault to be people. But I was working 2 jobs. Mike was working a couple of jobs. We were really thankful for every penny. We sold everything we owned that is worth anything. And I was working in the day in my normal job. In the evening job, I was typing up audio notes for medical and legal firms, and Mike was a trainee solicitor in the day, which was horrendously long hours. And then over Christmas, he was a waiter in a restaurant, which the tips were fantastic, and it paid for a lot on the trip. But we had to, I'm not saying that was easy. Like, we didn't do a lot of the fun outdoor social stuff that people kind of take for granted. Maybe not so much with COVID. I think people have really kind of understood what it is like to be, unable to do that. So I feel like that, this is literally come through right now. Maybe that thought is, maybe that's why we haven't found lockdown too hard, because we actually haven't ever really we've either been saving for the trip, on the trip, or saving for a house when we got home. So cycling is such a big part of our lives that facilitates a lot of social aspects, and we're lucky enough to have the bikes already. So I don't feel like our outgrowns are that much. but it made the saving was very difficult. I'm not gonna lie that it was a jolly holiday since we started meeting, and it was tough, but we had that goal. We knew we really wanted to go and do this really huge world trip that was going to cost a lot of money. And so there were times when we would be both really struggling and just so tired at the restaurant, because I did a few shifts there as well. But we were just, I remember saying it to each other, this shift is paying for 2 days in Malaysia. You know, like we tried to really like ground it in that, and it did make it easier. But I'm not going to say that it was an easy year of saving. It was hard work.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, obviously it all paid off, because you managed to get to the start line, which I think is more than a lot of people do. I think that in itself is a massive challenge. And then just kind of briefly give us an overview of your route and kind of where you went.
We did a bit of a squirrely route through Europe. We went up, so we left Glasgow, went to Newcastle, and got the ferry to Amsterdam, because we were like, just get us out of the UK and make it feel
as quickly as possible.
Amsterdam, and then up through Germany. I haven't thought about this route for ages. Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, so. Romania, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Turkey. But that was just that. It was a really nice slow introduction into touring, because we'd done a few trips on the weekends and stuff in the UK. But I remember finding it really intimidating going quite far east in Eastern Europe, because I wasn't that well travelled before, so I just didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what the roads would be like, what the drivers would be like, what the food would be like, anything like that. And it's so funny to think back now how intimidated I was, but actually it was such a lovely way of easing our way in and not having to camp every day and all that stuff. And by the time we got to Turkey, we felt like we were really kind of in our stride. But I did find that going very high, because there were some quite high passes in Turkey, that a weird heart arrhythmia that I had at university kind of kicked in again, and I started feeling quite unwell. So we decided also that because of that, and that we had a lot of antidepressants with us, because we were on those at the time, we were going to give Central Asia and the Pamir Highway a miss at that time, because we looked like we could have been drug smuggling. We had 2 years worth of pills with us, and all that kind of stuff. And also we were a little bit intimidated by it, because it was like, that is a very big step. So we thought, we'd been hearing from other people who were ahead of us that year that it was just incredibly expensive. And we were like, we have a very finite amount of money. So we, in Eastern Turkey, we stopped for a day and we're like, what are all of our options? Because we have the world, the world is literally our oyster. Where is more affordable for us to be? So we ended up finding a flight to Beijing, basically. And we had already had our 3-month Chinese visa with us in our passport. So that was perfectly possible. Spent 2.5 months in China, all the way down, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. And we were in Malaysia for Christmas with a friend of mine is Malaysian, and his family had us to stay for the whole of Christmas period.
Amazing.
Really, really lovely. We flew to Perth in Australia on New Year's Eve, because it was a very cheap flight.
Yeah.
Had the midnight celebration with a host in Perth, and then spent 3 months cycling across Australia in their summer.
Oh my goodness.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I think we are avoiding that one.
Yeah, it's very sensible. That was absolutely phenomenal. Incredibly hard, probably some of the hardest parts of the whole thing. And we knew it was going to be that way, just the way it worked out with timing. And then we flew to LA? Yeah, LA via Honolulu. Was a really cheap flight. And then we cycled north to get married in Yosemite, and then we just headed east across the American continent and ended up in Quebec City a little while later. Cheapest flight again was from French Canada to France, and we originally would have loved to have flown to Portugal, but it didn't work out with financially, because we were running quite low on money by that point. So then it was just a poodle back up through some European countries and back home. That was our trip. So we were very defined by money. Sadly, this is what a lot of it came down to. But we were really happy with our trip in the end, and there's lots of fill in. So lots.
Yeah. Well, I think it sounds like an amazing route, and there's loads of places that I think you've been mentioned there I'd love to go to that won't quite fit into our fairly fast timeline. So yeah, and there's just so much of the world to see, isn't there? So you could never do it all. I know some people try, but yes, and of course you slipped in there that your wedding in Yosemite National Park, which I think is amazing, and you've got some beautiful photos on your website, and I think that is, that's if anything's going to make the trip, it's that, and it's just the epic thing to do, isn't it? To go away, cycle around the world, and come back as husband and wife as well.
I mean, we we knew that we wanted to get married, but we were kind of like keeping any planning until we got further around, partly because of logistics and partly because we were like, oh, it's quite a risk spending a year together every day, but it solidified us. So we knew by that point it was the right thing to do. There was no doubts. So.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean, because I think you'd still agree there are challenges as riding with your partner, and there's a lot of give and take, but I think what doesn't kill you make you stronger, doesn't it? So and is that something you found that that is quite a lot of adjustment? I'm quite used to going out and doing things by myself, and suddenly having to take somebody else along with you, it puts a different slant on things, doesn't it?
I think so. I think we're very lucky that Mike and I are just like two sides of the same coin. I never felt like I wished he wasn't there, because I think what might be different between us is you're on a tandem, so you're very close together. At least we were never really out of sight of each other, but we were never immediately next to each other all day, every day, apart from Sundays. But so we kind of felt like we could have a bit of space without feeling like we were too separate. Saying that, there were days when we had a rest day, and I would say, let's just be in different rooms, just because that's healthy. But yeah, we're very lucky to really get on just that well, and get understand each other's minor quirks, and that's what makes a person. So we say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Mike did nearly die on the trip, so that's something that it's a big complicated psychological thing more now with he's a bit of a fair weather cyclist now, so because it was bad weather involved, so he's trying to move on from that, and it's a few years later than it happened, it's still affecting him. So
it's a horrendous story as well, but I think I've heard you talk about it before, and it's understandable. That's not something you just brush off, but it's something that it makes all the difference having somebody there with you that can there's a lot to be said for solo travel, but if you're two together, it's at least you've kind of got that backup and somebody to fall back on. And
and I think that's what he's trying to now go over. So for people who are listening who don't know, the weather came in the Rockies, and he got hypothermia, and if I hadn't been there, then he would have either cycled into traffic or just collapsed and died on the side of the road. So he's now, we're both trying to help him be okay with cycling on his own in bad weather. And up until this winter just gone, we'd thought that I was the only one that was affected by what had happened, because I had to deal with the entire fallout of it and it happening. I'm fine about it now. I can talk about it perfectly fine. So it's quite a new thing to kind of realize that he struggles a bit. So he's actually off now on a bike packing trip overnight. So in the sunny weather, to try and ease himself into it. So the weather is something to really not mess around with.
No, and it is quite scary. We were even out, was it 2 or 3 weekends ago? So this is May.
Yeah.
We were up high with near Flash, were the highest village in the UK, and the hail came in and it was freezing. And although we thought we'd put plenty of layers on because it was May, you know, and it was literally, we weren't that far off civilization at all, but it's scary. You think, how on earth am I going to keep myself warm? And yeah, once it sets in, it is epic. And I think, you know, we've got so many different weather systems to consider. It's just going to be one of those things you're going to have to be a bit prepared for everything.
Yeah, and that's the best way to be.
Yeah, definitely. And then you've got loads of fantastic little videos and your blog and your website and everything. And I was flicking through, and as much as as you know, you do cover all aspects of cycle touring, somehow you still manage to make washing dirty shorts look like a fun.
I forgot about that video.
Yeah, I mean, what was kind of the toughest things? What was the most unglamorous things? Was it literally, you know, just trying to keep yourself clean, trying to find somewhere to stay?
I think the grimiest thing was that you just got used to being dirty after a certain period of time.
Yeah.
And, but every continent had its own challenges. So Europe, it was just a matter of just getting used to being and living on the bike and the natural flow of the day, how much food you were used to eating, and etc. etc. And as you progress further away from home, it was learning how to speak to people in different languages with that language barrier, and how you quite easily get around that just by sort of gestures and body language. And that was a really natural learning curve that I really appreciate going through. And then flying to China, even more out of the comfort zone with language, but we met a friend of a friend in Beijing who was a Scottish lady there. She taught us so much about just how to be in China as a foreigner, and a few really helpful phrases, and understanding their cultural differences so that we could make friends. And then we got semi-kidnapped by so many groups of Chinese people who just loved us and took us out for dinner and got us very drunk all the time. But those are just the best experiences. But the coal haulage roads in northern China, we were just filthy all day, every day. And by the time we kind of got further south, I did have quite a nasty cough and a very sore throat. It was definitely from the air and the pollution there. So that was hard to see, just the damage in that part of the world that is happening. But it's it was just very eye-opening, and the speed at which you're traveling, you see this natural change in the landscape, and then how people change and how cultures change. But everyone is still human, and there was like a continuity throughout the whole journey that was about making friends along the whole way. And then by the time you got to Australia, they've got so much humor in their culture, which we didn't really experience elsewhere. But because it was quite brash at first, we were quite taken aback. Like, we say what we were doing, and people are like, "Oh, did you?" I won't do the accent. Did you cycle across the sea? And we're like, well, obviously not. Like, but then after a few days, we kind of like got into that frame of mind of like Western humor and back to the food and all that chat, and we could give it back. And it was then, so there was like a small shift each time we got somewhere new, that took a little bit of adjustment. And I think just the logistics of the day to day were quite the same throughout the whole of the trip, but the difficulties, the challenges, they weren't even difficult. Just the challenges we came up against were just the cultural shifts each time, and not feeling like we were too out of place as much as we could. And then America, everything was very much like about money. Like, the first question we quite often get asked was, "How much is this costing you?" Which was quite
really,
in a different way. That everyone was very much like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe what you've done." And a lot of people that we spoke to would ask where we'd been and would just nod along. And then as soon as we said, "Oh, we've cycled here from LA," they'd be like, "Whoa!" Like, it's quite hard to understand. And I'm in no way saying anything bad about the Americans, but it's about what you understand as a person, and your sphere of what your world is. And it was just like trying to communicate and associate with that person on their level to begin, be able to try and make friends. And really interesting insight into what people find important in society. Because it's to show in their first questions, like in China it would be, what do your parents think of this? Like, did you have to ask for permission to go? And in America it was, how much is it costing you? But of course that's our experience, and other people would have had very different experiences, but that was what we experienced.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And you do hear different experiences of everybody that travels everywhere. And it's kind of the cheesy question, but was there a favorite place? Is there somewhere you're going to go back to, or even is there somewhere that you kind of think, actually it was great, but I wouldn't go back there again?
We both love China. Like we could both we could live out there. It was, whilst it was so different, I think that was what we really enjoyed. And I think meeting that friend of a friend who could teach us so much about, almost giving us a little head start into what it, how to experience China well, probably helped us feel very at home. I remember us just walking down the street in I think Xi'an by that point, so halfway across, and Mike and I were just saying how everything felt very homely, like everything was very familiar even already. So we would love to go back / live there at some point in our lives. But nowhere else was really like, oh my god, get me out here now. Because not saying that the places weren't difficult. Like I think Mike hadn't ever really been to a Islamic country before, so his experience in Turkey, he struggled to see how differently men treated me, and I was like, it's fine. Like I understand. I had been to Egypt by that point, and I kind of understood the place that I had within that society. But Mike struggled a little bit with that. And no, everywhere was really great. Everywhere was fantastic. And I think again it comes down to the fact that we were so unthreatening and unassuming cycling through the landscape. So. It's that difference, isn't it? And you say there's so many differences but so many similarities the way around. I think that's one of the things we're kind of really excited about is kind of getting that experience. And then just in terms of like practicality, you obviously kind of you cycle toured it as it were. I mean, you'd done the LeJoG before, but this is kind of another kettle of fish, isn't it? I mean, did you find that you kind of overpacked to begin with? Did you what things were essential? What things did you bring that you thought you needed that you didn't? And did you kind of switch from country to country as well in terms of what you carried? Oh, we definitely overpacked, without a doubt. we definitely had to. I think my parents came to meet us in Poland for a day or two, and they took a few things home at that point. And then we met Mike's dad in Istanbul. He took a few more things home at that point. But we had read all the blogs that were out there at the time, and people were saying, oh, that classic question of what was the one thing that you couldn't live without, and we always made sure we had it. And then when it was like, well, that's not what we could not live without. So, but we would rather have just tested the water, and we had that ability to send stuff home, so it wasn't a problem at all. Even by the time we got to Australia, there was stuff we were sending home that we just didn't use. So what was the end of the question? Just logistics.
Yeah. And then you kind of swapped and switched a bit from country to country as well, did you?
We didn't. I know that some people send cold weather gear ahead themselves, or like or a lot of people don't take camping stoves into parts of Southeast Asia, but we kept everything that was that essential. We didn't send anything ahead of ourselves, and I'm glad we didn't, because if we'd considered that in Australia, thinking, oh, it's their summer, let's send all the cold weather gear ahead. There was 2 days on the Nullarbor where it went from 45 degrees one day to 18 the next, when just a weather storm came in. So I just feel like, and again in America where that storm came in, it would be very easy to be lulled into that sense of security. But again, it's just the weather. It's just, you cannot underestimate the power that it has. Definitely.
Yeah, it's one of the big uncontrollables, isn't it? So Yeah, no, I think you're entirely right. And then obviously with you doing it on a budget as well, were you I assume you're cooking and camping and all sorts. What kind of food staples did you find around the world?
You can find porridge everywhere.
Yeah.
Basically. Everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Oats is just such a staple. Yeah, porridge and jam was our pretty
Okay.
almost every day, and Mike can't eat porridge again now. He can't stand it. At least not slightly cold porridge. It has to be piping hot. But Asia, we always had like a pack of like ready noodles just in case. So that's why we already had our stove, because sometimes we were on roads where there wasn't really anyone there for food or water. But we just tried to keep it as cheap as possible, just cooking as much as we could. Australia was the hardest, probably the most financially draining place, because we only paid for one hotel because it was just too much out of our budget. So thankfully we could camp most places. Or everyone's got a friend of a friend of a friend who lives in Australia, so we were always put in touch with random people, and that was amazing to meet so many wonderful people across the whole route. But yeah, Australia, we had a lot of non-water based meals because you want to keep your water to drink. So everything was wraps based. So tortilla wraps with beans, loads of beans for days. Or for breakfast, it might be a tortilla wrap with banana and Nutella.
Oh, that's a good one.
That was a good one. That was a good one. You've got the classic picture that everyone takes for the sign for the 90-mile straight.
Yeah.
We've been in front of that sign and had a really good banana and Nutella wrap. I recommend it for everybody.
I might aim to do that.
Do it. Sit right. There's a big parking area right in front of me. You got to sit right in front of me. I want a selfie.
Yeah. I'll see if I can arrange the banana and Nutella wrap as well. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a.
Yeah, but in America it was a lot of takeaways, because by that point the balance with fast food and healthy meals was equal, if not on the side of fast food. So we actually put on weight as we cycled across America, sadly, but yeah, it was fine. Yeah, the food was amazing, basically.
Yeah, it's exciting as well. It's another different cultural aspect, isn't it? Just to see all that. So yeah, no, it'd be. And we've got this dilemma at the moment, still weighing up whether we take the stove or not. But I think it does open up a lot of different options. So
it does, but it also means you can, if you know that you're going to be going somewhere where you are questioning how far places are apart, and there's a risk that it might be a really strong headwind. And really, if that tiny little stove is going to take an extra couple of 100 grams, then to be able to fuel yourself across it, I think it's an essential, I would say, but everyone's different. But
yeah, cups of tea, that's my sticking
point.
Yeah. Fab. So I think, was it 26 months you were away from it? It was
17.
Oh, sorry, I've got my maths way out, haven't I? Yeah. So, I mean, it's quite a fast.
26. I wish it was.
No, so it's quite a fast tour. Would you go back and do it again?
A million times, yes. If I won the lottery tomorrow, we'd be setting up and going.
There's still plenty of time. So
yeah, no, and that's the thing. So we have got ourselves into a very financially sound situation. We're very lucky that Mike was training to be a solicitor, so he's come back and managed to find a really well-paying job, a very secure job. That's the important thing. So yeah, who knows where it's gonna lead. There's so many places we want to fill in that we missed out. So we had originally meant to be doing New Zealand, but we just couldn't afford it. Those 17 months we were away for were just how long our money lasted. And we obviously need to do the Premier Highway and all of Central Asia. We didn't even touch South America or Africa.
Yeah.
There is so much, and we just need to figure out when we're going to do it.
Yeah.
When, not if.
Yeah, fantastic. And then in the meantime, have you got any more plans for the future? I might have a sneaky bit of knowledge that you've got another big ride plan, maybe.
Yeah, so I mean, I had planned to go for the round the world record, to be the fastest woman, but COVID just destroyed that completely. And I mean, you never know what might happen in the future, but my life's in a bit of a different place now. And COVID has put a lot of questions over travel, and just don't know how much longer this is going to affect the entire planet, because it's not even like how fast can we vaccinate the UK, it's everybody else as a global problem, so.
And it's obviously something we're really, really conscious of as well. And
it's hard, but I keep going as though it's going to get better, because it probably will, I mean,
we're just going to batter on regardless, and if we need to arrange for a year, we will do. But
exactly, but besides that, I mean, I got a place on the Transcontinental that has been sadly postponed until 2022. I mean, that would definitely be the right decision. It's too soon, but Anna made the right decision there, but very excited to still have a place. And now it's just a matter of figuring out what I'm going to do this summer. Now I've kind of still got my annual leave that I need to take, but I'm thinking about doing just like a lap around Scotland and keeping it local.
Just a little lap around Scotland, comparatively so.
So we'll see. I mean, I think whilst the world is struggling with the pandemic and obviously all of the economic and social fallouts from that, there will be a time when it won't be an issue. Pandemics do pass, and the world will hopefully be a different place for the better, and there might be more travel opportunities that aren't by plane, and we could just do a bit of a slower tour. So if anything, we're just trying to get ourselves ready, for whenever that may be, 5-10 years down the line. But just dreaming about what we could do.
No, that's amazing. And the Transcon's really exciting as well, because there's there's very strong female history of riders involved in that, aren't there? So I can't wait to see how that goes, because it's a great dot watch of that as well. So
just such an iconic thing. I just to say that you've done it, I just want to finish. That's all. Just want to get to the end and say
I think I just do it. I just want to start. I just want to get the hat.
That'll be so good. I can't wait.
Cap number, fantastic. Yes, I'll be sure to be following you along that. Before you go, I've just got some bits of tandem trivia.
Oh, go.
Not too well, a little bit cheesy. Have you ever ridden a tandem?
I have sadly not, and we really do. So we did look into buying one last year, I think, but we just if anyone in Edinburgh has one, then we'd love to try one out. Like, it would be good fun.
No, you definitely should. And then I think I'm gonna have to exclude Mike from this question, because I think he'd be top of your list. But if you were to go riding a tandem, who would be your dream tandem partner? And it can be anybody, alive, dead, anybody you want.
Oh, besides Mike,
of course.
probably Mike Hall, just because.
Oh bless. It's his anniversary passing recently, wasn't it? It's obviously very sad, but oh my goodness, he would have some stories to tell, and then some. Fantastic. And then we often say it's cheesy, but we're joined by the frame. Can't do without each other. I feel like this should have been a Valentine's special or something this episode. But when you're on the bike, when you're touring, whatever, do you have a creature comfort? Is there something that you can't do without, be it like an item of food or kit or anything?
If we're talking fully loaded touring, so not bike packing, we took blankets. We got some just really cheap blankets that made it the whole way around, because there were quite a lot of countries where it was too hot for a sleeping bag, but I like to have something on me, and it was just something, I don't know, that was just the creature comfort that was just, we always had it. We always had it in a hotel if we were there, and also knowing how far that one item has traveled with me is just really, it's on the sofa next to me now. So
that's nice. No, it's interesting actually, because speaking to Marcus, who tandem around the world with his partner before, and he actually said they found a duvet was more beneficial than 2 sleeping bags. So no, good point.
Sleeping comforts, I think that's it.
I don't know how many we'll be able to squeeze in, but maybe a little shawl or something.
Probably not.
Fantastic. And last but not least, why should we ride around the world on a tandem?
Why should you? A tandem specific? Okay, there's two parts to that question. Why
Go on then, break it down.
Because it's the best way to connect with people that you otherwise would never meet. And why on a tandem is because it's probably the best way to connect with your partner. It's all about connection.
That's amazing. A nice note to finish on.
Yeah.
Helen, you've been absolutely fab. Thank you so much. It's been great to hear about your trip, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what you get up to on the Transcon and beyond. Because
I'm excited to see what you guys do. I can't wait to follow you. You're doing a spot tracker as well. We can follow your dot too.
Yeah, there will definitely be a spot tracker. So yeah, you'll be able to dot watch that as well. But no, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Hi everyone, thanks for listening. That amazing podcast with Helen was actually recorded on the 5th of June 2022, which is quite a significant date for us because that leaves us exactly 1 year until we plan to depart in 2022. So yes, it's exciting times, and hopefully you've enjoyed the podcast so far. If you could like, review, rate on whatever podcasting app you're listening on, that would be absolutely amazing. And as well, do look out for us on social media. If you're not following us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, we've got profiles on all those platforms, and would really appreciate you following us and letting your friends know as well. Please share the word too. We're hoping to get as many followers as possible, not only so we've got an amazing number of people following us around the world, but also to raise our profile in terms of sponsorship, and then to be able to raise as much money for our chosen charities as possible. So if you could spread the word about Stella Tandem, if you look for Stella Tandem, we should be under that name, and that would be absolutely amazing, and it would really help us get all the way around the world. Thanks so much. Till next time. Bye.